Welcome to Ticking Gray Bomb, Refined Taste for Idiots. This is the second installment of our vintage watch hunt. At this time, we're going to be focused on watches in the $5,000 to $7,000 range. So, Max, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is there's tons of great options in this price range, right? There, I think you have to be careful, right? Because I think a lot of folks, a lot of dealers tend to inflate values also in this price point. So the hunt, it's really critical to be locked in when you're hunting. But I picked really, I mean, what I find, I've looked at this piece for a long time. I've really wanted to buy this. It's a JLC Memovox World Time. Okay. It's great dimension, right? I mean, the one so it's not precious metal through and through. I think it's 18 karat filled.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold.
Which is very, 60s. But you definitely have the look and heft of gold. You have two crowns on the right hand side, one to regulate obviously the time, and the other for the world time selection. You have a date wheel at 3, additional complication, right? 38 millimeter, so really kind of modern dimension in a vintage watch. Just again, very just I love, as you've heard this from me before, I love vintage world times because it's like going back in time with some older city names, like Calcutta and Bombay are still on this watch. But yeah, I mean, I really and I would say price point is right there at between, let's say, $6,500 $7,000. I think amazing value, excellent piece of horological history. So for me, this is 100% sweet spot for vintage.
Yeah, this piece is really handsome. I mean, when I've looked at vintage world time, the cities have always been around the rim of the watch.
Yes.
And so this is really interesting with the center wheel. Really handsome, got some beautiful patina on it. This is a really sweet pick, Max.
Yeah, and I think at the price point, it's amazing. Doesn't Tissot? I think Tissot makes a similar kind of world time. I tried to look for that. I've seen it at auction, and I think again, maybe I'll fish out a picture that they did a re-release in the last year or two, because the design was so iconic. But I really love this kind of inner wheel. This would be the model I would buy 100%.
Yeah, so my pick, I have been looking at the Hoyer Carrera 1153 for some time, mostly just kind of gauging where the market has been going. Um, Probably a year ago, I started looking at them, and they were right around $5,000, depending on condition and whether or not they had the original Gay Frere bracelet.
Mm.
And so I'll share two photos. One that has a darker dial with two white subdials at the 3 and 9 position, with an orange chronoseconds hand. Um, I think depending on how that darker color has aged, that might be my preference compared to the um, other variant that it came in, which is kind of the white dial with two blue or dark gray subdials at 3 and 9. So those are the two variants of it. I think it's a really handsome watch, especially if you can get it on the original bracelet. You've got the chronograph function on the right-hand side of the dial, and then the crown on the left-hand side. It's got a date at 6 o'clock. And I have just been looking at these, and I would say that they have crept up in price quite a bit. Um, and they're all over the place. I think Mex referenced this in terms of dealers maybe pushing the prices higher. I've seen them anywhere from, maybe let's call it $4,000 to $12,000. I inquired about another piece. Um, it was in Italy, and he responded yesterday and told me what the price was, and just about 12 grand. So I thought that was quite a bit on the high side. But I think with the pictures that I show in the video, both of them are, one's just 5,100 and one's about 4,900. Both really handsome pieces, and I'll show both color variants. In the 1970s, they would either have the caliber 11 or the caliber 12. There's some opinion that maybe going with the caliber 12 might be better. It has some of the issues with the calendar. Keep saying calendar, but caliber 11 ironed out, and so the caliber 12 is a better movement.
So I would say two things here. First of all, this is so on point with Mace's design aesthetic. I think you would have done yourself a disservice not mentioning this. But two, I think you highlight, again, homework is absolutely necessary when you're hunting pieces like this, right? Because guess what? We have 40 or 50 years of history to input into our decision-making process, right? Of trial and error, people having success or not success, or ease, a lack of ease with operating these watches. So I think that's absolutely essential to do your homework, to understand the colorways, right, from a design standpoint, because these were truly handmade pieces. And you look at watches today, even things like Rolex, they tend to be more mass manufactured, more standardized, as opposed to way back when, where you have even different dial designs per watchmaker. So these are critical things to know before you really get out in earnest and start talking to dealers about watches.
Yeah, and that just reminds me too. Another thing to look out on these particular watches is how well the lume has survived. A lot of times you'll find kind of the lume has kind of crumbled off of either the hands or the indices. So that's important to keep a look at. That could be overlooked, I think.
Yep. And I encountered the same in searching for a neo vintage Speedy, right? In some cases, that lume, that burned out tritium lume, it takes on an element of patina, but the lume could also degrade, to your point,
Right.
Mace. And I think that's something that you really should be assessing from a condition standpoint. And again, it could be the difference between a $6,000 Monaco and a $12,000 Monaco.
Right.
Right. And you'd have to say, okay, is that degradation worth it to me? Just something to take into consideration.
All right. So I think that's what we have at the $5,000 to $7,000 range. Let us know what you think about those choices, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye bye.